we're working on the basis of about 4,500 calories a day, but we wanted a varied food list, all sorts of interesting foods that would sort of help our morale. So the food list was pretty comprehensive and was a pretty it was interesting food. We had a lot of chocolate. We had a lot of freeze-dried food. It was all concentrated, dried food, dried fruit, dried meat, dried vegetables.
Twice a day, with 70-pound loads, the carry went on, and a dent began to be seen in the mound of gear. Within a week, they had a month's supplies in place above the shelter of the bush line.
The horseflies were sheer hell. They were large, about as big as a blowfly, and boy, couldn't they bite. They produced quite a sizable hole in your skin and the usual biting fly type syndrome of a large lump and considerable itching for days. They'd get caught in eddies of the wind and carried up to this height, and even at that stage, as they're in the last stages of dying through freezing, they'd be attacking us vigorously.
all the time we had been anticipating getting only a few days of fine weather while we were on the ice cap. And every time we saw fine weather, we were elated. And every time we had bad weather, we just took this as a natural thing.
As other expeditions found during 50 years of attempts to penetrate the ice cap, the unpredictable Patagonian weather was a major obstacle to mountaineering activity. The clouds lifted to reveal the glacier in rain-washed clarity. Here at Camp 1, another scene from the 1945 Heim expedition sprang to life from the pages of his book. It was over this glacier that the route to the ice cap would be found.
Well, there was no fancy skiing on this expedition. There was no one in the party that was very good at skiing, and some of us were actually very poor.
Among their equipment were ski skins that I had taken to the South Pole 13 years before. Judging by the restitching operations they found necessary in the field, maybe we should have retired them years ago.
We were always carrying heavy packs, sometimes between 60 and 70 pounds, and with this sort of weight on your back you just can't ski properly. And if ever your skins slip on the snow, you've got the devil's own job trying to save your balance. And if you should fall over, trying to get back up onto your feet again is very difficult and requires a tremendous amount of effort.
Expedition 1, this is Expedition 2. Will the coal route go? Will that route go? Over.
Bit of a cakewalk up here, Ray. It's reasonable sort of access. There's a good cave site, about 600 feet below the top, over.
Roger. How long do you estimate it will take us to get there? Over.
I'd say it would be about an hour from the point where you leave your skis, over.
It was decided to dig 2 snow caves on the 7,000-foot pass found by the reconnaissance party. A snow cave can't be blown away. Ten hours' work for 1 cave, made urgent by fading light and snow flurries swirling over the exposed ridge.
Snow caves are a peculiar thing, a world of its own. It can be fine and sunny outside, and when you go inside, it's quiet and peaceful. And it can be stormy outside, and you can go in, and it's exactly the same. We were living actually inside a glacier, and you forgot about this most of the time. But every now and again, you'd be lying in your bunk and there'd be a bump or a jerk, and it would be a big piece of ice moving somewhere.
I think the thing that I got most of all out of this expedition, and probably most of all out of any climbing trip I've ever been on, is that you like the people so much and you enjoy their company so much, even though you argue like hell with them at times. This just doesn't matter.
It's an interesting experience to spend a long time in a snow cave. You tend to go into suspension, almost as if you've been put on ice.
We spent most of the time telling stories, reading, swapping anecdotes of past climbing experiences, women that we'd met in the past, the sort of thing.
As outside conditions deteriorated, contact between the two caves, 10 feet apart, was only possible by radio.
Of course, if it was too bad to go outside to get food tins, it was certainly too bad to go outside to relieve yourself. So we had to build a grotto inside.
I think the reason I climb is because the mountains are beautiful, and you can't, just looking at them is not enough. You've got to be involved with them more closely than just looking at them. And the only way I can think of is to photograph them or climb them, or both. On the night before a climb, I definitely feel very tense, and it's quite often difficult to sleep. This is obviously because this is the focal point of the activity. In the case of the expedition, years of preparation lie behind this moment. In a place like Patagonia, perhaps this is the only fine day, only fine climbing day, which we'll have. The success of the expedition may lie on one day. Consequently, it's very difficult not to be tense. One's imagination is usually very active at this time.
The idea of climbing a mountain by myself doesn't appeal at all. Often just talking to somebody on a climb has meant at least as much as the climb, and to turn